episode of The Visionary Effect, the podcast for true visionaries. And I gotta say that I am nervous about this person today because back in the day when I joined the industry close to 20 years ago, I remember going into one particular event. And I remember my boss at a time saying, "You see that lady over there? You need to get to know her. She is everything and more." And it was always about Denise Garcia, Denise Garcia, Denise Garcia, now Denise Jackson. But it's interesting because every time that I think about Denise, I still have her on my phone as Denise Garcia because there's so much power in being Denise Garcia and all that she did and wanting to know her. And I remember the first time that she talked to me and she addressed me by my name in one event in San Jose. I remember one of the last times we were together, it was a bowling event in San Jose. And with all of that, I just wanted to thank you, Denise, for being here, but to tell you what an inspiration you have been for me and a role model, and also so giving in knowledge and opportunities. You're always such a great connector of people. And I just wanted to say that, like, even talking to you, I will never be at the same level as you, but to even consider you a peer is one of the highlights of my career in the industry. So welcome to our podcast.
Wow. Thank you so much, Rochelle. I was extremely honored when you asked me to be here today. So thank you so much. It has been an absolute pleasure to get to know you and all of our friends in the industry, really.
Yeah. So 20 years later,
Oh my goodness, 20 years.
Do you know which event I'm even talking about? It was the
I
one at
do.
that mall. And
It's
it
the
was,
Central Coast Claims Association
yes,
bowling tournament. It
yes,
was at Oak Ridge Lanes, which is
yes.
no longer there.
Uh-huh.
Might be a different thing. You may know bowling is a huge passion of mine. I have kept friends for 40 years through the sport, and I absolutely love it. So any opportunity to have an event to get people together, I always think, let's go bowling. So that's really how those kind of came about. The Claims Association was a big part of my career and something that I really enjoyed doing. And as you mentioned, bringing people together for one goal, right? Really to network, to get to know people, to understand the industry, to welcome new people. You know, we're not, the insurance industry especially is not something that you study in school. It's not something that there's a book you can read. It's really just learning from others, participating and being present. And I think that the Central Coast Claims, along with a lot of the insurance associations, they do that for us.
And I love that you said that because, I work with companies throughout the whole country. I have some clients overseas. And when we talk about claims associations, it's nothing like we experienced in the San Francisco Bay Area. I mean,
Yeah.
I look back at, names that you and I know, and Brian Harrison taking the pictures and all of the, like, what we had felt so much like an extended family that when I
Yes.
explained that to people, people were like, "Are you sure these associations even exist in my area?" Because
Yeah.
they don't have the same experience. So going back like 20 years ago when we met, and obviously you're already who you were for the industry when I joined. What can you tell the listeners about the power of the community that you were able to create with the claims associations in the San Francisco Bay Area, and why you think somebody would say, "This sounds amazing, but this is nothing like what I have in, like, I don't know, Maryland, for example." Tell us a little bit more about your experience joining the associations and what that meant to you.
Yeah, I think you mentioned, it was a tight-knit group. And I think that anytime you're going to have success in that area, people came vulnerable. They came wanting to learn. They came wanting to be a part of something. There's a respect in that association that I don't always see in other arenas, but we always had a respect, whether it was for the clients that would attend or just for one another's position and what they brought to the table. We really regarded everyone so highly. And it's funny that you said you wanted to get to know me. I wanted to get to know you. There's just that desire to connect. And I think we had a lot of people that were willing to step out of their comfort zone because it's not always easy. But I think we were a welcoming group. We really tried to be. Um, in order to create that, again, you have to come in vulnerable. You have to come in wanting to share what you know so that people want to share with you. And we just had a trust, and it was a very unique situation, but it was one that we all cherished and protected. And I think it's something that allowed us to grow for a long time.
Agree. And I think that for me, at least, I can say with so much gratitude, first, because I never even knew that this industry existed. And here I am 20 years
Mhm.
later. I remember Dave Osborne from Petaluma, the first day that I was on the job, he said to me, he said, "Kid, I hope you like what you're doing because you're not likely to leave." And 20 years later, we're friends on Facebook, and every now and then he was like, "Still doing this, huh? Still doing this."
Yeah.
And I think, and I give a lot of that it's credit to the associations that we had, to the
Mhm.
Central Claims, to the
Yeah.
East Bay Claims,
Right.
Sacramento Claims, and all of that, because even
Mhm.
when we came together at the conference in
Mhm.
Sacramento, it
Combined
really
claims.
felt like, yes, it really felt
Mhm.
like we know each other.
Mhm.
This is just who we are. And the booth with the Lindor truffles, and like, you know what I mean? Like, those are the
Yeah.
memories that I have.
Yeah.
And my memories pre-Botox that I joke about. I'm like, these are the memories that I have about who I became as a professional that would
Mhm.
have not happened had not been for that. So before we met, opening that, tell us a little bit about who you were before you joined the industry, and maybe the impact that those associations had for your career.
Yeah, absolutely. So I come from a construction background. My dad was a contractor. And when I kind of ventured into the world on my own, I worked for a small general contractor in the Campbell Bay area. And I was an estimator. I wrote scopes. It was something I was comfortable doing, but something that don't, I didn't know was unique. I didn't know I would be the only female out there. I didn't know, I didn't know that there would be new things coming up, or that other people would see, I guess. To me, it was what I had always done. It's what I was kind of born into. So to me, it was very normal. But what I didn't have was I didn't have the ability to, or the knowledge of how to go out and network. Where does that come from? How do I do that? And at the time, the Central Coast Claims Association was looking for some help. And I thought, I'm just going to try it again, step out of your comfort zone, trying new things. My boss at the time encouraged me to step in. It was something that JM Construction had been a part of these associations. And I had such respect for my boss and the leaders there that I said, if you think it's a good idea, I'm willing to give it a try. And so I stepped in. And again, those before me were so welcoming and able or willing and able to share their experiences and to share what they knew. And I think that was really what taught me to want to do the same and to make a welcoming environment, to make an environment that was worth our time, that we could network, we could learn, and that we could continue to build that tight knit. And you're right, going to the CCNC, it's a reunion is what, especially back in our day, Richelle, when we were going to all of those events, you would show up for an event and 50 of your best friends were right there to help you. You show up by yourself, you never have to set the booth up by yourself because there's 10 competitors, other industry partners, whoever it might be, they're right there ready to help. And that was something that I think is unique to this industry. We say competitors, we use that word. I use it loosely because we all know each other. We all want each other to succeed. And that's what makes this industry unique.
And I love that you said that, because I remember my first day on the job, actually the first event. It was, what's the name of that old restaurant where we used to meet at in San Jose, Santa Clara area? We used to go to
The
a,
Italian restaurant.
no, it wasn't the fancy one downtown. It was kind of like old school. I forgot. It was a chain, but anyhow, I remember
Mhm.
going to that event, and they closed an area of the restaurant just for us. Man, I
Mhm.
can see myself driving over there with
Yeah.
my old boss. And I remember him saying to me, he said, be nice to everybody because your
Mhm.
worst competitor today might be the greatest source of business for you tomorrow, and
Yes.
you will just sound phony. And being in the industry, I started in the industry 2006. I wrapped up in the Bay in 2013. I saw how much of that was true
Mhm.
because people moved around, but they were still the same people. And,
Yes.
they were an adjuster for a company one day, and then they were the project manager for your competitor the other day. But it's like,
Mhm.
we used to do these things together. There's space for everybody. And
Right.
I think that, at least in my experience, it wasn't as ugly as some people in other parts of the country say. I'm like,
Right.
that is not what I saw at
Mm-mm.
all. So why do
No.
you think that we had such a unique group over there? What do you think made that group so awesome?
It was just the people. We were lucky to just have genuine people. And I do think a lot of us were still early in our careers, but we were never cutthroat, or we really wanted to see each other succeed. And it is unique. I don't know if I can put my finger on exactly why. We enjoyed each other's companies. We had fun events. I think that helped, to get together, to have a good time. Again, we always wanted to teach each other what we learned. We were excited about it. It was all new. The industry was still new. It was developing and evolving and growing, and it was fun. It was just a lot of fun. And I think that that took away some of that competitive ugliness you mentioned, is we were all just having a good time with one another.
Yeah,
And it all did work.
I would second that because even besides right now that I'm in Utah and I've been here for 9 years, the Bay Area was the place since I moved to the States that I spent most of my life, and my life was in this
Right.
industry. Every time that I go to the Bay, I can't help but think like, who can I stop by and say hi to?
Yes.
Right?
Mhm.
From even with your company right now with RMC,
Mhm.
which has always been a such a powerhouse in the industry, with John being so
Right.
respected by his peers. And
Mhm.
I've been in the industry for close to 2 decades. I've never heard one single person say anything bad about John Takata, like
Right.
ever. So
Yeah.
well respected in the industry. And
Mhm.
then the Rubios and then Liz. And like, I just remember so much of those years being
Yeah.
spent with people in your brand that
Yeah.
now, that once you join the brand, I'm like, this is just wow. Like, I know
Yeah.
so many of those people. We have done so many things together. So I agree with you. People are so
Mhm.
genuine, honest, and real that when I look back, I strongly believe to my core that if I get lost somewhere in the Bay Area, I can always pick up the phone, call somebody, and I know somebody will rescue me because of
Yeah.
the good people and the values that we had in that core group.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of us, that still keep in touch. And like you said, I feel like even if you haven't talked to someone in 5, 6, 7, 8 years, if you picked up the phone, they would be there. Every now and then I'll get a call from someone. Deanie called me recently, had a question. I hadn't talked to her in a while, but oh, yes, absolutely. I pick up that phone, right? That's what you do. It's funny that you mentioned with Liz and some of those others. My first day at RMC, at Restoration Management Company, we did a big lunch, and John, was there, and he took a bunch of the business development people out to lunch. And as people were showing up, it was, oh, hi, good to see you. Hi, good to see you. And I had already moved to Denver. I've been in Denver for 11 years now. I'd already moved away. And here we are at this table, and John looks at me, he says, I forget you know everybody. And I said, we've all been in the same associations together. We've all worked together. We've all known each other. Out of the 50 people at this lunch, I probably already knew 30 of them. And it's nice in this industry that you have that, because it is a small industry. We're a niche market, and we value those relationships. We value those friendships. And someone who might even be a customer is now maybe an industry partner. Somebody who is an industry partner could be a customer. To your point, everyone's moving around. And so I think everyone just embraced one another. And that is something that I will always treasure. Those were amazing years.
I love that. I love that you mentioned that. So with
Mhm.
that, you and I, again, we met through a time in the industry where it
Mhm.
was very insurance driven. What do you
Yes.
think? What are your thoughts on the industry back then of 20 years ago when we were so focused on our relationship with adjusters?
Mhm.
Hence why for me, it's so hard when somebody badmouths an adjuster because their
Yeah.
names come to my head. I'm like, no, you can't talk about this person. And
Yeah.
I know things change, but
Right.
what do you think are the good that still remains in the industry as a whole when it comes to relationships with carriers? What are some of the goods before we go with the bad and the ugly?
Yeah, I think the good is that we're still dealing with the same people and the same types of people. And
Mhm.
at the end of the day, we got into this business to help people. Their homes are destroyed, they're in the worst days of their life, something that we see a lot of, but maybe they've only seen once ever. Um, and at the end of the day, we all came here because we wanted to be in an industry where we felt like we were making a difference. And that is the good, and that doesn't waver. The insurance carriers, I know, people hear a lot of things, but at the end of the day, they really are here to take care of their policyholders. They're here to make sure that you get back to your life, to your business, whatever that might be. And I think that that is still a consistent. I don't think that has changed. I think the people are still genuinely here to help.
That's good. That's really good. Because for me, when I look back, I remember right when I joined the industry, there's somewhat, and I joined as, a subcontractor, but there's so much tension in like, would adjusters control more of our work or will contractors control our work? And so many conversations that I can go back to 2006 and 7 and replay in my head. But what I've learned from that, and I wanted to hear your thoughts on that too, is that at the end of the day, we all come 5 o'clock, we have a family to take care of.
Yeah.
And I think that all of us, whether you are a restoration company contractor, a subcontractor, or an adjuster representing a carrier, at the end of the day, we just want to find partnerships that makes us more efficient. Would you agree that that's is still a fair statement?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Because your partners, whether it's your clients or your industry partners, it's so important. Every business or every company or the two companies together don't make for a great relationship or a great partnership, right? So it's really important that that integrity is there and the desire to be the best for one another, to show up for your partners, to show up for your clients, to show up.
I love when people join us. I love it. The
Yeah,
other day it was
sorry,
my
that is
son.
my
Mom,
dog.
my son
Yeah,
was like, "Can I be in the podcast?" I'm like, "Well, I
yeah,
guess we'll have to accommodate that."
sure, why not? Yeah, that is my 17-pound attack dog who is now going to.
I love it. So as you're saying,
Gosh,
like,
so God bless her.
I think that that poses a question for us with all the knowledge that you have. What do you think restoration contractors should know about adjuster to make that relationship healthier?
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, they need to understand that what the adjuster is doing, and I'm sorry, Rachel, I can pause for a second.
No problem. So I love that as Denise is taking care of her little helper over there. I remember so clearly, and that's why, guys, when I say that for me it's so hard, this idea of when somebody is, bad mouthing an adjuster, the title for me means so many relationships and people that have helped me, right? So many people that have helped me. I remember Hermeline Hernandez with Nationwide, that was a large loss adjuster, calling me Mija and saying, "This is what you need to do." And I
Yeah,
remember all of that. And I'm like, at what point are we holding people to their titles and associations that we might have with one individual that held the same title
right.
that is impacting our ability to provide good service for other people? So with what you were saying, what do you think it's the
Yeah,
biggest thing that contractors should know about working well with adjusters?
yeah. I think there's a few things. First of all, if you remember back in our day, 20 years ago, there were so many field adjusters. You could go to San Jose and you could walk into the State Farm office. You could go to Pleasanton, you could walk into the farmer's office.
Remember.
And there are 20 field adjusters just for the Bay Area. So I think that the first thing we need to remember is, I know my own insurance company, we have 2 adjusters for the entire Denver metro area. There's 2 field adjusters.
Wow.
That is a huge change right there.
Wow.
So the amount of work that they're having to do, and the way that they're having to do and to adjust claims has changed for them. The other thing is they're going off of the policy. A lot of times they'll say, oh, well, this adjuster will allow this, or this adjuster won't allow that. Yes, there might be some company lines, but most of it is policy. They are going based on what this insurance policy covers. So if they don't have upgrades and the client needs a new electrical panel, it's just not covered. It's not that the insurance adjuster is being difficult. It's simply not covered in the policy. So I think things like that we need to remember. I think we need to remember that they have a lot of pressure. Their files are being audited. So really coming towards it in a mindset of, how can I help this process along? What can I do? What documentation can I provide? What can I get ahead of? This isn't our first claim. It's not their first claim. We know photos, documentation, all these things, right? We know this out of the gate. It's been an industry standard for as long as I've been doing this. So if we can make sure that we're putting our best foot forward, we have processes in place to make sure that, okay, this is an insurance claim, or this could be an insurance claim. Let's dot all of our I's, cross all of our T's, so that when it does go to insurance and they ask for all of this, we already have it and we're not trying to reinvent it. And I think that that's really important, is to have that mindset of, what can we do to make this go smoother? I think that will really help.
I really like that. Now, considering that you work for one of my dream companies, and the company that everybody that back in the day wanted to work for, and I remember, the small office in Hayward, and then now you guys have a training facility in Livermore, and I remember I remember the office in Martinez before it became the big one. Like Benicia or Martinez? Benicia.
Yeah.
Across
Still there.
that. And I remember all of that, Bob. And going back to that, what does it feel like to work for a privately owned restoration company with how many locations do you guys have all over right now?
16 now. We are
16 locations. How many states?
We're in California, Washington, Phoenix, Dallas.
Wow.
What am I missing? Nevada. We are, and then of course, Colorado. So we are all over the Western region. We have large loss teams. We have catastrophe teams. So we're still West Coast focused, but we definitely have a national presence. So it is really amazing. Now, I'll go back again to my JM days. RMC was one of my vendors, because RMC at the time only did restoration and we only did construction. So for example, Liz Sanchez, who's now a regional director, she was a technician, like a lead technician.
Liz is the regional director. Oh my gosh, Liz, if you're hearing this, I remember us going to a Warrior game together, girl.
Yeah.
It's you, Liz. Okay.
Yes, she's amazing.
Wow.
So to see it firsthand, to see the growth, they might have still been in Fremont when I first knew of John and the team. And so to watch this growth, to go to Hayward is just a great, wonderful facility, and we can do a lot of work out of there, but we still have all the offices around it. We now have an office in San Francisco. It's just growing every day. Every day I feel like we're, okay, what's next? Where are we going next? What does it look like? So the growth has been, for me, that is so much fun, right? To be able to watch this growth of this company, but to be under a single owner has always been special. Again, coming from my dad being a contractor, to working at JM, to working for some of these smaller companies, having that personal connection is not only good for me, it's great for our clients. So when you get a client that says, well, I need the invoice to look like this, then we can make those changes. We don't have to go through, 20 different, people, or, well, this is the company line or the franchise line, or so it's made it really nice. But to really watch John's growth and the ability to stay humble and to maintain that culture and the core values, I think that's what I'm most proud of working for this company.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And for me, like again with the stories, right? Like there are people in my life in the industry that I wanted to work for, and
Mhm.
a few of them I have had the privilege of working for. I know that one of them works for you guys right now, but seeing all of that and being like the impact that John has had, not only in the industry, but most importantly in the lives of the people of your team.
Yeah.
In one particular story, I won't mention the name, but I remember this member of your team saying to me, John saw more in me than I saw in myself.
Yeah.
And I became who John envisioned for me, which, being the visionary effect. So with that, let me ask you, what was the big goal that you had in your life that you envisioned for yourself, and how did you go about accomplishing it?
You know, once I really understood kind of what the direction of the industry, and again, that some of the things that I did were unique. I really wanted to be able to develop sales teams and allow them to have the vision from both sides. I do consider myself a salesperson, on that business development sales side, but I have that operational background. And I think learning the business from both angles is so important. And I've always wanted to, I guess, pass on that knowledge. I never wanted to be seen as somebody who was superficial. I never wanted my teams to look that way. So for me, the vision was to always to grow teams who could talk the talk and walk the walk. So it's really important to me that my business development team is IICRC certified, that they understand all the services, that they can speak intelligently to the clients in order to show them that there's different options. And sometimes we're not even the right option. Sometimes they don't need us. But in order to have those conversations and to grow those partnerships, you have to be able to look at it from both sides. And I always want my clients to be partners. I want them to look at us as industry experts, and having that term used in the same sentence of your career in any capacity, I think is really what I've always strived for. I do feel like I've done this for a while and I know a thing or two. So it's really nice, to have someone like yourself reach out to me, or have, my team reach out to me, because that mentorship and that growth and development is just really important to me. And that's what I've always wanted to do. And just having that focus and, having people like John take a chance on you. At the time, we didn't have a Denver branch, but obviously he's known me for a long time. Denise Jackson wasn't getting through the door, but Denise Garcia did. So you're
I'm
right.
telling you,
I don't know
it's
why I ever
it's
changed
it's your
my name.
celebrity name. It's your celebrity name.
So he was happy to take that chance on me, living where we didn't have a branch and working fully remotely, which I know is outside of his comfort zone. But he's been able to take that chance on me and on others. And we've been able to do amazing things and build an amazing team outside of California. And so it was really, I think, having someone to have that trust and to be allowed to utilize what I know and what I've learned over the years, and then just putting the right people in place and sharing the knowledge.
Very good. So let's play right now a game of, as we wrap up, the good, the bad, and the
Goodness.
ugly, lessons
Okay.
learned. Like, had I
Oh my
known then
goodness.
what I know now. So let's start with that. Had you known then what you know now, what would have been the biggest advice you would have given to yourself joining the industry?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think that I would have learned more about different segments and verticals right from the start. I was so entrenched in the insurance world that when I even came to restoration management company 6 years ago, we had a different need. And I had to quickly learn about more about multifamily and commercial and these other segments. And I wish I would have taken other opportunities that I did have to branch out. And again, sometimes getting out of your comfort zone is hard. And I wish I would have done that a little bit more and a little faster.
I agree with you, especially as I spent several months with a client creating their ICP, their ideal client profile for
Mhm.
multifamily. I'm like,
Mhm.
man, that is something that I would
Yeah.
have done right in the beginning too.
Mhm.
Had you known then what you know now, would you have pursued maybe RMC from the get-go, or do you feel like you needed to become who you had to become to then join the team and make the impact? Oh, in other words, would you have joined RMC earlier on?
It's funny because I had talks with John in the past and throughout my career. And no, I don't think I think I made the right choice in waiting because I brought a different level of leadership. I hope I bring a different level of leadership
For sure.
that I I didn't have, 20 years ago, 15 years ago. I think it's something that I have truly developed. The ability to work remote the way I do was really strong prior to John hiring me. But it was, the probably 10 years before that I hadn't been in an office. So there are definitely some things that some skills I was able to develop, some leadership skills, some different things that I was able to develop and grow before I came here. And I think that was really important.
Very good. What do you think was the biggest lesson that you learned in your career in the industry? The biggest thing that if you could go back in time and tell yourself that you would?
I think maybe I'm a person who always looks forward and is always looking for growth, which is great. And I'm looking at what's the next office we're going to open? Where are we going next? And I'm consistently asking those questions. And I think sometimes I don't take the opportunity to celebrate the wins or to celebrate what we've done. Opening Denver, opening Dallas, opening Las Vegas. These are all things that have happened in the last 6 years that I've been here. And sometimes I forget to celebrate not just with myself, but with my team. So I'm still learning that. And so I wish I would have recognized that sooner.
You couldn't have said that at a better time during the podcast, because this is one thing that I learned about myself and about visionaries as I was writing my last book, that a vision is an ever evolving thing. So the idea is that we're running towards our goal, and our goal is pretty much as far as our eye can see. But the closer that we get to that mark, that no longer is how far as our eye can see. So we go to the next thing and the next thing,
Mhm.
and it's
Yes.
exhausting at times. And
Yeah.
I think that you're so on point on that, learning how to, as we are ready, I usually joke like my goal is to get to the end of the rainbow, but the closer that I get to it, now I see the pot of gold, and then I see emeralds, and I see rubies, and I see
Mhm.
that, and I want it all. But
Yeah.
to know and acknowledge that a lot of people need to celebrate the completion that
Yes.
I don't need, because
Right.
the chase is more exciting for me
Mhm.
than the accomplishment. But
I
I
agree.
you're absolutely right on that.
Mhm.
So now I'm gonna
Yes.
totally throw you a curveball as we wrap up.
Okay.
Had you known then what you know now, what do you think you would have told me when you first met me? Not that I was important
Mhm.
enough for you to remember that, but
Yes, you
like,
are.
looking back, what do you think you would have told me when I was in my very first year and I was thinking this is just a job and I'm gonna be here for a year?
Yeah.
What do you think you would have told me to keep me going?
I probably would have just told you to keep an open mind, enjoy the people around you, take a moment to see them, because this industry is something amazing. And it is something that will feed you in multiple ways not just the dinner on your table throughout your career, if you let it.
Yeah. And I love again that you said that, because Ray Deppa, when I first started consulting, he said, kid, I could have told you that that was the path you're heading towards. And
Yeah.
I'm like, why, Ray? And he said, because every time that I talked to you, I knew that you wanted more, and you were a
Yes.
leader and you're a visionary.
Mhm.
So, Denise, this has been a great pleasure. Like for me, the accomplishment of the year, getting to interview you for the Visionary Effect. And thank you
Yeah.
again for all that you have done for the industry and for me personally, and paving the way. And for everybody that's listening here, Denise is always looking for talent for her team, and I vouch for the opportunity to work with her as their team continues to grow and becoming a sales-driven organization. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening to us today. I hope this podcast inspires you in your journey to keep pushing through the difficulties, because they're going to happen, and that is part of the Visionary Effect. Thanks, Denise. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Richelle.